Hi everyone, welcome back to If My Heart Had Wings, Kotori's Route, episode 14. So, we now suffered another really big setback, and it's that, despite the morning glory coming very soon based on the weather conditions, this afternoon, Kotori announced that she's moving back to Tokyo because of her family relations. So the mother is, she collapsed after hearing about what happened, and Kotori is blaming herself for all of the problems. So she started by requesting to fly in the higher balloon, and that was what got Kotori injured. And despite the parents really caring about Kotori and helping her despite the wheelchair and the disability, Kotori went out on her own and flew a glider, and she almost got into another accident, an injury. But even though this one is not as bad as the higher balloon one, it's enough to make her parents worry. So it's like, in order to make my parents happy, I will not do any more extreme sports. I'll go back to Tokyo where I can be under the watch of my mom. And even though I was like, I'm sure that's not what you want because you've been working this hard to be able to fly through the morning glory. And you're going to throw away all this just for that? So hopefully we can have some solution that will allow Kotori to achieve her big dream that she's been wanting ever since the beginning. Because if you remember, it was Kotori who presented the photograph to the Soaring Club when it was very close to being shut down due to lack of members and purpose. And that was the time when Amane was working all by herself in the Soaring Club. So I would just go off the phone with Kotori and let's see how it goes from here. So I noticed she had hung up. So I was alone in the Flying Fish Manor. Well, not really alone. So Kanako was the one who called Aoi back. Well, I'm fine. So, where's Hibari? So, entering Kotori's room, I saw Hibari packing. So, taking one look at me, Hibari seemed to instantly know what is going on. She quietly closed a cardboard box packed with Kotori's textbook. So I think this is everything that Kotori has. Hibari spoke in a whisper as she looked at the few small cardboard boxes that contained all of Kotori's things. And they were mostly filled with clothes and everyday items. The rest were textbooks. And aside from the stuffed animals that had been on the bed, Kotori didn't have much personal items. So she said having lots of stuff was mostly a hassle. So Hibari seemed extremely sad. And I completely understand. So having only a few things made Kotori's own existence seem somewhat small. Hibari was silent. Tears began to flow from her eyes, or form in her eyes. And I wonder if Hibari did kind of influence Kotori's decision about what to do next. Well, she wasn't scared at all. So even I was surprised by that. So she was nervous about being up in the sky. Kotori didn't show it at all. So Kotori was happy.
私、今でも水瀬さんたちに感謝しているし、風ヶ浦に来てよかったんだって思っています。小鳥ちゃんがまた元気になってくれたんだもの。
So Hibari does admit that Kotori was happy.
それに、もし小鳥ちゃんが皆さんと同じ夢を見られるのなら応援してあげたい。お父さんも本当はそう思っているはずなんです。
But if I could only convince the father that this is, or Kotori enjoys this. So saying that, she closed her eyes. It almost seemed as if she was praying that what she said was the truth.
でも、もし今ここに残れば、今度こそ家族はバラバラになってしまうかもしれない。
Well, I heard your mother isn't doing well.
ただの貧血だろうと言っていました。母はもともとあまり体が丈夫じゃなくて、私が実家へ連絡した時、小鳥ちゃんの事故を先に知ったのは母だったんです。その時、父は仕事で電話に出られなくて。
So Hibari first told the mother about what happened, and then when the father later showed up at home, that's when the mother told the father about what happened.
病院で父が一晩寄り添って少し良くなったと聞いています。
So considering Kotori's condition, her mother already had to worry more about her than most mothers would. That's true. So to hear about the accident and that it was a glider accident must have been a huge shock. So isn't there any way that Kotori could stay, something other than just having her quit school? I was getting agitated and my tone was becoming less kind. However, Hibari only shook her head to me, so no.
父も母も小鳥ちゃんと一緒に暮らすことを強く望んでいます。
So the parents want Kotori to stay with them.
将来どうなるかはわかりませんが、今すぐには。
And they think something worse might happen to Kotori. But she has things that she wants to do. And not just this year, but her entire future. So what is going to happen to her? So Kotori doesn't really like how the parents are pretty much... Well, they pretty much have Kotori chained to them. It's like, well, we want you to make sure you're safe, so we want to make sure we could see everything that you do. And that's kind of one of the reasons why Kotori didn't want to be at home and wanted to be here. So saying this to Hibari would not change anything. And I still couldn't do without saying it. An awful silence surrounds us. And suddenly, the little door within the door opened up, and in came the duck Hat.
Quack.
So Hat entered the room and waddled over to Hibari's feet.
ハットちゃん。
So Hibari kneeled down and patted Hat's back.
こや。
Hello. So Kotori hasn't come back, so he's been searching the dorm for her. And Hat always does that on days Kotori is late coming home.
そう。小鳥ちゃんからのことづてで、ハットちゃんをよろしくと言っていました。
So, well, you can take care of Hat now. Well, you don't have to worry about him. Sure, he'll be lonely, but if you left him alone, he'll find food just fine.
強いのね、ハットちゃんは。ガガー。
Yep, says Hat. Hat seemed to enjoy Hibari petting him. So, what's going to happen to Kotori now?
今夜はうちで預かって、明日の朝、父が迎えに来ることになっています。
So, she'll stay with me for the rest of the night, and then the father will pick her up.
退学などの手続きはすべて父が行いますので、もう ここへは
and then the withdrawal. So this time the father will submit the withdrawal letter and do all the paperwork proceedings. So can I see her one more time before she goes? Please, Hibari, so let me see her. So Hibari stopped petting hat, standing up. She pulls something out of her bag.
これを水瀬さんにって
So you can have this. So what is this? She handed me Iska's navigation diary.
もう自分が持っておくべきものじゃないからって。水瀬さん？
Okay.
それとこれも
So what else? So with a strange look on her face, Hibari handed me the thing she was talking about. So what is this?
わかりません。水瀬さんに渡してほしいって。
Oh, so the paper airplane. It was a completely normal paper airplane. I quickly unfolded it, but there was nothing written on the paper.
荷物は後日引き取りに来ますので、それまで置いておいていただけませんか？
Okay. So with my head hung low, Hibari looked at me with a bit of worry in her eyes.
あの子が東京へ戻ったら連絡があると思います。
Well, don't worry. So once she gets back to Tokyo, she can contact you.
それまでそっとしておいてあげてください。
So saying that in an apologetic tone, Hibari left. So for a moment, I couldn't move from where I stood. So sudden exhaustion came over me. I did not have the energy to combat this. So I threw myself onto Kotori's bed. My eyes glanced over at the flight diary I had received earlier. She said she didn't have any reason to hold on to it any longer. Well, it's because she has finally decided to give up on flying. It's like, well, the parents are more important, so this notebook was pretty much Kotori's starting point. And after finding it in this room, she then discovered the glider and flew herself. So returning it meant Kotori was saying she had made up her mind. That's true. So rather, she was throwing it all away, all of her feelings, for the sky. I searched through every page of the notebook to see if she had left a message somewhere. I couldn't find anything anywhere. The notebook was exactly as it was before. So basically, Kotori has not written any flight logs at all, and the only thing that she wrote on it was the to-do list. So I looked at the last page, the things I want to do list. And even looking now, there were still some ridiculous things written. One was like, skip school. It seems like she had done that one yesterday by accident. Well, I'm not sure if that's accident. And I don't think that's skipping school because it's like she had to be absent for a good reason. Or like an excused absence. So only the top item, flying through the passage of clouds, was left unchecked. And even though that could happen tonight.
やりきれないね。なんか。
So looking up to see who spoke, I saw Kanako in the doorway. Just as she had said, I was completely frustrated. She had probably heard me and Hibari talking. And we see Kanako. So Kanako came into the room and sat down next to me. So she had picked up Hat and put him on her lap.
昔さ、いとこがインコを飼ってたのね。
Well, I don't think that helps. Is that so?
それがすんごい可愛くてさ。私、その子に会うのが楽しみで、いとこの家にしょっちゅう遊びに行ってたわけ。インコって結構賢くてさ、飼い主に懐くのよ。 指や肩に乗ったりね。知ってた？
So I wasn't sure why Kanako was talking about parakeets, but I just quietly listened.
ある時、いとこが新しいインコを買ってきたんだよね。一匹だけじゃ寂しいだろって。私も早速見に行ったわけよ。いやー、あの時はテンション上がったな。まだ子供だって言うからさ。
Huh?
でさ、見ちゃったわけ。羽を切るところを。
So cutting like feathers? The feathers?
そう。
So Kanako grabbed some of Hat's feathers and flicked it around.
インコを飼うときって羽を切るのよ。先っちょをほんの少しだけね。全部の飼い主がそうしてるわけじゃないみたいだけど。
So why in the world would you do that?
私もそう思ったわ。どうして？ひどいって。そしたら急にインコがかわいそうに思えてきて、いとこのうちに遊びに行かなくなっちゃった。
Well, that is pretty terrible.
って思っちゃうよね、やっぱ。で、それからだいぶして、もうちょっと大きくなってから、そうしなきゃいけない理由があることを知ったのよ。そうしないと部屋で話したとき、勢いよく飛びすぎて、天井や壁にぶつかっちゃうらしいのよ。
Okay, so what was Aoi asking? Let's see.
物が崩れたりもして、インコの怪我のもとになる。それに、窓から飛び出していっちゃうこともよくあるし。
Okay, so it's like, well, why is there a reason to pull off the feathers? And Kanako's like, well, it's a way to control their speed or their...
ほら、たまに見かけるでしょ？インコ探してますの張り紙。
So it's like, well, it's a way to control their flying. It's like they don't fly too fast, and if they do, then they may crash into something. It's bad. So I hadn't seen any recently, but just like I had seen them for missing dogs, I have seen a few for missing parakeets. And it does prevent or reduce the chances of the parakeet being lost.
羽を切ってても少しくらい飛べるし、人に飼われて暮らすなら、その方が暮らしやすいんだよね。要は、飛べなくするんじゃなくて、世界の狭さに合わせたサイズに羽を調節するわけ。
I see. I had no idea that was part of keeping a parakeet. So cutting the feathers sounded awful, but I guess it's a bit like keeping a collar on the dog. Kinda true.
で、今でも時々考えてしまうのよ。さて、どっちが幸せなのやらってね。懐いてる飼い主に可愛がられて、たらふく餌を食って、天敵に襲われない安全な場所でぬくぬく眠れて。幸せなんじゃないかって思うんだけどね。けど、聞けないじゃん。インコの本音なんてさ。
Right. So as she commented to Hat how he couldn't fly to begin with, she placed him on the floor and stood up.
聞けたらいいんだけどね。インコの気持ち。
So she left the room looking frustrated. So the parakeet's feelings. So I can at least look up at the sky. And is that really what Kotori felt? And even if it was that all that she could feel? Well, I don't know. So at any rate, it seems that Kotori had already decided her future. Okay, so back in the dock or secret base.
お疲れ様です、先輩。ああ、別に疲れてないぞ。夜。何ですか？ここは任せてもいいかな。私は外を見てくる。
So, if I remember in the last episode, Amane and Yoru were busy calculating how to perform a rubber core takeoff, and I wonder if they were able to solve the equation and determine what is needed to make it happen. Because the winch is gone, it's damaged, and that's the only way to fly.
疲れてないのか。葵先輩、遅いですね。うん。でも心配ないよ。必ず戻るって言ってたじゃん。はい。糖分が足りない。姉さん、チョコ。はいはい、ただいま。ありがとう。あの人、すごいわね。あまねさん？私、自分より頭いい人、初めて見たわ。
Okay,
本当に天才なのかもしれない。
So I think they were able to solve the equation, and even Yoru kind of, wow, so Amane is a really smart person. I can't even imagine it. First time I've had to deal with this.
どうなの？いけそう？ええ、多分。あの人が外でちょうどいい場所を見つけてきてくれたら。
So it is possible, but we have to find a perfect place for this.
ただ、まだ裏付けは完璧じゃないわ。休憩終わり。もう一頑張り。
But still, more calculations.
あ、葵先輩。葵。
So without quite realizing it, I had returned to the secret base where everyone was waiting. And Agaha came up to me as soon as I came in.
こっちはいけそうだよ、葵。そっちはどうだった？
So, Kotori?
Aoi?
So saying nothing, I handed over Iska's navigation diary.
何これ?
So what do you mean by this? She said she didn't have any reason to hold onto this any longer.
それってどういう?
Which means she decided to quit school in the middle of summer vacation.
え? 今、なんて?
So why now? So after hearing about Kotori's accident, her mother collapsed. She said she doesn't want to worry her parents anymore. She said she's done. As I spoke, I could feel tears welling up in my eyes. I took a deep breath to pull myself together. So anyways, where's Amane? So I was planning to give Isuka's diary to her. It wasn't something I should be holding on to. So it was Isuka who had it first, and then she left it in her room before Kotori picked it up.
今、外に出てる。
Okay, so I'll go look for her. So a strong wind was blowing outside. And due to its shape, the strong winds often blow down on Windmill Hill. That wasn't the reason this time. So when the morning glory appears, the airstream becomes turbulent and a strong wind will blow. And looking at the sky, I still couldn't see the cloud formation, although it was clear it was coming. And I sat down on the grass, and I had no real intention of going to look for Amane. And I just couldn't stay in there. I had to get out. So the wind noisily ran up the grassy plain, and this is where it all began. So way back in episode 1, and this was the first place Aoi went to, and the same place where he saw Kotori afterwards. So I came back home after becoming unable to ride my bicycle, And then the first time I came to this hill, I met Kotori. There you go. And her wheelchair had a flat tire, and I helped her, and that's how it started. Same story. So a year has passed since then. And we lived together as each other's sky-gazing partner. We argued, yes. We always still looked up at the same sky. So please don't get her all wrapped up in your normal person dreams. So the quote that the father said to all of them. So he says that not even knowing what his daughter feels when she looks up at the sky.
私、飛びたい。モーニンググローリーを、雲の回廊を渡りたい。そうしたら、取り戻せる気がするの。未来が。そう、未来。私がなくした、一番大きなもの。もし、モーニンググローリーを飛べれば、取り戻せる気がするの。
So Kotori find happiness by going back to her parents' home? I'm sure that's a no. So giving up on her dream, throwing away her future. And there's no way she'll be happy. So even Aoi understands. So I wish I could bring her back right now. But that would be completely, or not completely disrupt Kotori's family. So this is a family problem. So he also remembers another word from Kotori and the father. So they both said the same sentence. And if I don't go home, my family would entirely fall apart. I could not let that happen. So Kotori had to decide which one of these things was more important. So without any trouble, she did choose her family. And I just want her to come back. Although I guess that just means I'm being selfish. So I looked down at the paper airplane I was given along with Iska's navigation diary. It was completely normal paper airplane. And there was nothing special about how it was made. There was nothing written anywhere. So she had given up on flying, but not the desire to fly. So was that the message? So Kotori still wishes she could fly. So I picked up the paper airplane and threw it. And it quietly glided towards the night sky, or through. It fortunately missed a head-on wind and then proceeded to fly towards the hill's bottom and disappeared into the darkness. So it flies well. So Kotori made it. And if you remember that paper airplane competition, Kotori won. And she went with the simple route versus Ageha and Amane, who tried to make all these complicated shapes. And I think I always was okay, but it got caught up in the wind or something. But then again, it does show that Kotori has good craftsmanship skills. So as I was complimenting the paper airplane, I saw someone coming up from the foot of the hill. And it's Amane.
これを投げたのは君かい?
So she caught the paper airplane. So she came over near me and stared out at the lake at the bottom of the hill.
いい風が出てきたな。
Yeah.
ちょうどいい場所を見つけた。飛べるぞ、葵くん。
So can you fly? I wonder. So it is quite turbulent right now.
なんだか張り合いがないぞ。どうしたんだ?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what's the right thing to do. So without realizing it, I had begun complaining. Amane gave me a perplexed look. So I still hadn't told her about Kotori. Of course, she would be confused. Well, I'm sorry. I'm talking crazy. So just forget about it.
正しいとか間違ってるとか 私はないと思う。
Huh?
それを決められるのは自分だけだ。だってそうだろ？誰かにとって正しくても他の誰かにとって間違ってるってことはたくさんあるんだ。だから僕は僕にとって何が正しいか他人に決められるのなんてごめんだね。迷った時は自分の心に耳を澄ませるといい。あんたの正しい答えはそこにある。
So I stared blankly at the poetry coming out of Amane's mouth.
イスカが私に言った言葉だ。
So basically, it's the same as what Iska told me.
驚いたよ。それまで私はどんな問題にも正しい答えは一つだと思っていたから。天才だろ、イスカは。
Well, it seems like it.
だから君も自分の心に耳を傾けるといい。私はバカだから今もあまり上手にできないんだけどな。
Well, even I do have some flaws, despite... Well, I don't think Amaya sees herself as a genius. So, sounding embarrassed as she spoke, Amane handed the paper airplane to me.
さて、フライトプランを練り直すか。
Well, anyways, I gotta prepare the flight plan. So she stood up and headed off to the secret base. And as I watched her walk away, a light went on in my head. So what's gonna happen now? And suddenly I remember everything from that moment. So the first time I met Kotori. So white paper airplane had gently flown over my head. It was almost as if one of the windmill blades detached and flew through the air. I picked it up, climbed the hill, and then... I met her. So this was all in episode 1. A girl in a wheelchair with a sense of innocence about her. She was staring wistfully up the sky. As the wind came and blew her long hair, she ran her fingers through it. And a black-haired girl in a white blouse sat with a scenery of windmills and a blue sky surrounding her. It was like looking at a painting. So it got to you. So it's like, am I picking up the paper airplane? It's kind of like me picking up Kotori's paper airplane in episode 1. So the very first episode of If My Heart Had Wings. And as she said that, tears began to well in her eyes. She had thrown the paper airplane. So what did she say then? So that way, if there's someone who can get my SOS and come here for me. SOS. My body trembled. I looked at the perfectly plain paper airplane. And could this really be an SOS? So was this Kotori calling out for help, just like she did in the very beginning? It probably wasn't. And since I want to see her so badly, I'm probably connecting the dots in my head. However... So she is, I'm too late. I stood up and ran in the opposite direction of the secret base. So I pulled out my cell phone as I ran.
もしもし、葵?
So what's happening now? So can I ask you to get the glider ready?
いいけど、どうしたの急に?
So what's going on now? Well, I'm going to get Kotori. Wait, Ayaha?
そう来なくちゃ。
Okay then.
こっちは任せて。だから絶対連れてきてよね。
Okay, so I'll get the glider, you get Kotori. And as soon as I hung up, I called Anchan. Oh, Anchan, so pick up. Oh no, he's not picking up. So I decided to hang up and make a different call.
はい、もしもし、ハバネです。
So he's gonna call Hibari. Oh, I'm sorry for calling so late. So this is Aoi.
水瀬さん？
So is Kotori here? I asked almost completely out of breath. Hibari is deathly silent.
実はもう父が迎えに来て。
So apparently the father just picked her up. My father. Well, I thought he was coming tomorrow.
小鳥ちゃんの気が変わる前に連れて帰りたかったんだと思います。
Say, well, the father wanted it to happen sooner. So when was this?
ついさっきです。まだ5分も経ってません。
So about 5 minutes ago. Okay, I see. Thanks. So before hanging up, I remember there was something else I had to talk about. Oh, so can you come here now then?
私がですか？
Yes. So I want you to see what Kotori was aiming for. So please, take a look at the sky. So whether or not Kotori flies, I want her sister to see it. And I wanted her to see what Kotori, or what all of us were after this entire time.
わかりました。
Well, I guess that didn't work. So Anchan didn't seem to be answering. So he tried to call from his room in the Flying Fish Manor. So I thought I'd ask him to use his truck. But taxis don't run this hour in the countryside. So I guess there's only one thing left to do. So just to be safe, I left a message for Anchan. When I was ready, I put a hand on my partner that I've been maintaining every day. Alright buddy, so let's do this.
Aoiが小鳥を迎えに行くって。
Okay, so looks like I was going to use his bicycle to chase after Kotori, who just got picked up by her father. And let's see if he makes it.
本当ですか？小鳥のことは葵に任せておけばいいと思う。必ず連れてきてくれるはずだから。ただいま。
So Maya's back.
ちょうどいいところに。どうでしたか？ああ、バッチリだ。となると、あとはグライダーですね。
So now all we have left is to retrieve the glider.
そっちは私が行ってくるわ。朝ちゃんは発行準備の方をお願い。人手がいるから適当に集めてきて。
Okay, so we need to bring in as many volunteers as we can.
ああ、あとライトも必要だ。懐中電灯か何かを一緒に集めてくれ。ラジャーです。ここからが正念場よ。忙しくなるぞ。
Okay, so the moment. So we gotta get everything ready. We have a small time window. Okay, so I was pedaling hard on his bicycle. So I sprinted down the southward bound road next to the lake. So there's no way they could have gone 100 kilometers. No reason to preserve my leg strength. So it was about 30 kilometers to where I had to go. So if I couldn't go my full speed, but I was still going very fast. So going, well, based on my estimate, they're still probably in the vicinity, and there's still a chance for me to catch up to Kotori in the car. So if I couldn't catch Kotori there, I wouldn't be able to go after them anymore. And the place was the Saza Naminobashi Bridge, located directly south of here. The giant bridge was connected to an island in the middle of the lake, making it look like some sort of undulating wave. So even ignoring the beautiful landscape, due to its convenience, any Tokyo-bound car would definitely take that route. So he knows exactly where the car would be heading for. So I calculated how much time I had left. It wouldn't take an hour to get to the bridge from Hibari's house. So since it was late at night, there could be speeding, but I doubt Kotori's father would be that dangerous. And instead, he was very likely to be obeying the speed limit and driving safely. And it was about 30 kilometers to the bridge from the dorm. I was much closer than they were, so Hibari's house. So if I hurry, I can catch up with them. So I pedaled as hard as I could. So how's the glider?
お待たせ、マー君。
おっせえよ、何やってたんだよ。
これ用意してたら遅くなっちゃって。
ガスバーナー。お前それで何する気だ。
Okay, so Ayo has the right tool to break open the lock.
決まってんでしょ。鍵を焼き切るんだよ。
焼き切るんだよ。じゃねえよ、危ねえ女だな。
何言ってるのよ。叩き壊すより野蛮じゃないし、音も小さくて済むでしょうが。
So I think what Ayo is going to do is she's going to melt the lock, so it could be easily broken.
いいのか、ホタル。こんなことに首突っ込んで。
青兄たちのためだから。
まあ、そういう俺も巻き込まれてるしな。
Well, I guess I'm part of the operation as well.
さあ行くよ。時間がもったいない。
Okay, let's do it.
葵たちが戻ってくる前に準備整えなきゃいけないんだから。というわけなんです、皆さん。ご協力をお願いします。
So Asa's trying to get volunteers.
おー、ついに飛ぶのね。どうしますか、ゆかさん。
もちろん手伝わせてもらうわ。そのために早めに帰ってきたんですもの。
私もいいよ、あさちゃん。ありがとうございます、皆さん。いやー、みんなにメールしといてよかったわ。それと懐中電灯か何か手で持てる明かりがあると嬉しいんですけど、どんなのでもいいの？
So anything will work.
はい、なるべく明るいもので。それならあれがあるじゃないですか、ゆかさん。
あれ？あれでよければ余ってるけど。
So I wonder what Yuka has that's even more exquisite than a flashlight.
夏の野外ライブが雨で中止になっちゃいましたもんね。
そうなのよ。あの時は本当に悔しかったわ。私がどれだけ楽しみにしていたか。
Or Sanae.
あさちゃん、人でこれだけで足りるの？なんだったらもっと呼べるけど。
So do you need more volunteers? Says Kanako.
本当ですか？できればあと10人くらいは。
So it'll be nice if we could get more.
おいしさ、連絡も回してみるね。
Okay.
あー、けど夜遅いし大丈夫なんですか？
Well, I hope it's worth it.
多分ね。ソアリング部がついに飛ぶって言ったらみんな来ると思うよ。そうなんですか？
みんな結構期待してたからね。すごいことをやろうとしてるみたいだって。
うんうん、やっぱロマンがあるもんね、空飛ぶのって。みんな頑張ってたから。皆さん、もしもし、あかりちゃん？ごめん、寝てた？起きてた？
So we see Kanako making additional calls to get more volunteers, and it looks like she's going to call Akari, the student council president.
そう、それ。察しがいいね。うひひ、さてはお主。風がどんどん強くなってる。これは計算した以上だな。
So this is it.
あんまり風速がありすぎるとかえって離陸が難しくなるんじゃ。そういやそうだな。
Well, then, it might be dangerous, but,
みんなうまくやってくれてるかしら。大丈夫さ、きっとうまくいくよ。みんないい子たちだからな。根拠になってませんが。けど私もそんな気がします。
小鳥、寝てていいんだよ。
okay, so now we're looking at how Kotori and the father are doing. So, Dad's car drove quietly through the night roads. And the destination is Tokyo, my home.
すまないな、こんな時間に。少しでも早く母さんに会わせたかったんだ。
Well, that makes sense. Like, well, your mother wants to meet you ASAP, so...
今から帰ればちょうど朝には戻れるだろう。
分かってるよ。私も早くお母さんに会いたい。
母さん、小鳥が帰ったらきっとすぐに元気になってご馳走を作ってくれるぞ。
So, think about the
小鳥は
positive.
何が食べたい？
So, it's like, think about the positives. She'll make good food for you when you return.
オムライスかな。
コロッケじゃないのか。小鳥好きだっただろう。
コロッケはね、自分で作れるようになったから。今度は私がお母さんに作って食べさせてあげたい。
It's like, well, I can make croquettes myself, so I want something more special. So, a rice omelet.
おお、それは楽しみだな。もちろんお父さんの分もあるんだろう。
どうしよっかななんて。
So he was laughing. It seemed to be coming from his heart. And it wasn't forced at all. He was genuinely happy. So I'm happy that Kotori's returning home. Well, that made me a little happier. So our little chit-chat was over as quickly as it started. So all I heard was the awful sound of the tires against the asphalt. Well, I think it's more like the wind noise. So I opened my cell phone to try to distract myself from the silence. And I wonder what Kotori sees. So I saw a sign just now. So the morning glory is coming tomorrow morning. And I stared blankly at the message. And it was the last one I got from the person I love. Aoi. Or Aoi-kun.
おお、
So what happened? So why did the father make a sudden break?
危ないな。深夜だからって無茶な運転をして。大丈夫か、小鳥。
平気。
So I wonder if that was someone
あ
that
あ
we
いう
know.
輩がいるから交通事故がなくならないんだ。まったく。
So I wonder if that's someone that Kotori knows, or just some random driver who's driving too crazy in the early mornings.
窓開けていい？
エアコンが強かったかい？
そうじゃないの。風に当たりたいだけ。
After opening the window, I look up at the sky, and it's completely black. In that black sky, though, I knew the passage of clouds was slowly but surely being made. A sign. The morning glory's sign. The sky I had been longing for all this time. And if I was in this town for just one more day, so just tomorrow morning, I would be able to see it. However, this car's taking me further and further away from Kazugura every second.
今どのあたり？
So where are we?
もう少ししたらさざ波大橋が見えてくる。ほら、前に通った大きな橋。
ああ、あの綺麗な橋。
I'm sorry, I went too fast. So hold on.
もう少ししたらさざ波大橋が見えてくる。ほら、前に通った大きな橋。覚えてないか？
Okay. So a large bridge that spanned over a lake. And that was the exit out of Kazugura. And soon I'll be leaving the town that I grew to love so much. Well, could you do that? So quit school, go back home, and live like that? So I think Kotori's having second thoughts now. So a chill went down my spine as I remembered those words. And that was the cruelest thing he ever said to me. And it didn't matter when he would have said it to me. And today, or even a year ago. Well, either way, it was the cruelest thing.
ねえ、お父さん。
So, Dad?
なんだい？
Yes?
なんでもない。
So I'm completely different from a year ago. So all those memories. So I have tons of memories now. There you go. And in my heart, there was an album of memories of all the days I spent with everyone. And there might be no future for me there, but I can relieve those memories just by opening that album. And well, I'll be fine. Well, I have to do this. Because if I don't, Mom and Dad will,
私、頑張ったんだよ。お父さん、
So Kotori's crying now.
頑張って上手になって、本当にグライダーを操縦したんだよ。
ああ、
Yes?
何百メートルも高いところに上がって、それで、すごく楽しかったんだよ。
楽しいことならまた見つかる。もっと安全な遊びが。
Well, I promise. So once you go home, you'll find some other hobby that will be safer and more exciting than this.
違うんだよ。そうじゃないの。グライダーで飛ぶ楽しさは、他じゃ変えられないんだよ。
Well, so we've had the same conversation over and over. And my father just continued to drive quietly with a sad look on his face.
ほら、見えてきたぞ。
Well,
あ
anyways,
の橋が。
the bridge is here.
お願い、お父さん。
小鳥。
Well, we've already talked about this. He looked at me again with his sad eyes.
辛いだろうけれど、それは今だけだ。向こうで暮らせば、きっとすぐ忘れられる。
I wonder. So I'm sure Kotori won't forget about all of this. Could I really throw away my dreams and live like nothing had happened?
友達だって、向こうでまたできるさ。
And the car slowly carried me over the bridge. And once I crossed it, there would be no going back. I was leaving the town I once hated, the town I now loved. So I wonder what's going on now. And suddenly I saw something in the side mirror. Wait, is that a bicycle? Okay, so it looks like our main character Aoi has finally caught up to the car that has Kotori and her father. So I'm going to leave this to next episode, and we'll see how the father responds now that Aoi has caught up to the car, and what he's going to do about releasing Kotori, or his decision about taking Kotori back to Tokyo. It's like, well, if you're back in Tokyo, you'll forget about all this, and you'll have better memories. You'll have new friends. You'll have new hobbies to enjoy, and it'll be safer, much more exciting, and you won't have to worry about your safety anymore. But for Aoi, he knows that Kotori doesn't want to give up her dreams of flying the Morning Glory, given that she's been looking for this for at least a year. And I'm very sure there's no way Kotori is going to forget about it, and she probably won't enjoy her life back in Tokyo. And that's based on what I've kind of seen in A Sky Full of Stars, which is another visual novel by Pole Top. But anyways, hopefully the other parts of getting the glider ready, or the flight ready, is going well. So Agaha taking the glider from the locked storage room, and Asa and Kanako finding enough volunteers to help with the rubber cord launch. And I wonder what Amane and Yoru are going to do. Or maybe they're just watching the weather and making sure that everything is safe before they do these special rubber core takeoff. So we'll see how all this comes together in the next episode.